Hi, my name is John.
And my name is Lloyd.
And we're the hosts of The Pint,
a pop culture podcast.
Lloyd, if you had to tell any of the people out there that might be listening to The Pint for the first time about anything unsavory or disconcerting we might do on the show, what would you warn them about?
Well, sometimes we drop spoilers, and sometimes we swear like motherfucking sailors.
Fuck yeah, we do. You heard it from him. You've been warned.
Listen in.
Welcome to a brand new episode of The Pint. My name is John.
My name is Lloyd.
And we're celebrating a holiday today. You're going, what is today? What's happening on April 26th? Well, it's Alien Day, 4/26. If you don't know, you know now.
It's Alien Day, folks.
Alien Day.
We celebrated it last year.
We celebrated it last year. We did the Aliens, the film. And this year we're doing something a little bit different. I think something interesting. This is a Corner Box Corner episode where we talk comics. Because remember, we were Pino Comics at one point, and we still dip our toes in there every once in a while.
Yeah.
We're talking today about 1979's Alien, the illustrated story. Manster, tell everybody out there what that is exactly.
That is a adaptation of the movie put to a graphic novel. I don't know if you want to get into the writer and art and all that stuff.
Yeah, I got that stuff here.
Yeah, right.
So this was published by Heavy Metal, the pretty famous European company that puts out all kinds of cool, still does to this day, comic material. And funnily enough, most people identify, even though Alien is now at Marvel, its comic history was heavily Dark Horse, right? Except this, right?
Yeah.
The first thing they ever did. Real quick personal history with this book. My buddy Jimmy, who lived next door to me in the apartment I lived in, he was a couple years older than me, and his dad was a comic guy. I've talked about him on the show before. He used to let me watch, lend me movies. He was the guy that kind of got me into a lot of pop culture fandom. And we used to go over Jimmy's house and play. And I remember a copy of this being like in the basement where we used to watch movies and stuff. And it was the original, pressed with there's a blue cover with the Nostromo on it and the Alien logo.
Alien's very largely written.
Large font and then like vines hanging off of it. I remember the copy was beat to shit. And
which really has nothing to do with the story whatsoever.
No, but we'll get into that in a second. And I just remember I had never seen Alien. I was probably 7 or 8. I had never experienced Alien before, but I remember leafing through this book. And I mean, there's some extreme violence in this book too. Stuff that you don't even see in the movie. And I remember being very intrigued and kind of scared by it.
So I kind of wish this was a video podcast just to show some art.
Yeah, I'll put up some of the pages when we put this out. Like you said before, this thing came out in 1979 under Heavy Metal. If you're interested in it, if you want to still check it out, Titan Books reprinted it about 10 or 12 years ago, 2012 maybe. And that's where I got my current copy. And that's where I think Manster picked up his copy very recently. I got it
for like $15 on Amazon.
Yeah. So it's, if you're an Alien fan, we'll get into our ratings later on, but if you're an Alien fan, it's certainly a piece of, a product from the film or whatever they want to call that you certainly should have. It's a tie-in that you certainly should have.
What would you call this size? Because it's a different size than a comic book.
Almost magazine.
Wider.
Yeah, magazine size maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
Certainly is. All right, let's get into a little bit of the who's and what's. So obviously, if you know Alien, it was written by Dan O'Bannon and Ron Shusett, right? So this is obviously an adaptation, so they get the credit for the screenplay, but it was adapted and not adapted word for word necessarily. The writer was Archie Goodwin, who passed away in 1998. He was the editor-in-chief of Marvel for 1 year in the 70s before Jim Shooter took over. Jim Shooter is a very famous EIC over at Marvel. He was the editor and a writer on Detective Comics for DC for a period of his career. He wrote for Creepy and other Warren books in the 60s and 70s. He is one of the creators of Luke Cage Power Man. So this guy had a pretty prolific career, and he was chosen to adapt this over. You probably know him if you're a comic fan, but you definitely know Walt Simonson, who's the artist. Probably mostly for his career-defining run on Thor. This is the guy that wrote Thor in the mid to late 80s. He introduced Beta Ray Bill. He introduced the concept of Thor Frog. Most people, if they're going to mention a run of Thor, if they're not talking about like Kirby and Stan Lee, they're going to bring up Walt Simonson because he did probably what's considered the best and most important work on that character.
Yeah, I didn't learn about him until later. Obviously, I didn't get into comics until much later, but he did a run on Thor in the 2000 late teens, like maybe 17, 18. And I thought it was great. I loved the art.
Yeah, he's a writer as well. I want to bring that up that he wrote Thor. Not just, I think, he did some of the art chores, but he had an artist on that as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah. The one I saw was he did all the art.
Yeah. He also did one very recently where he kind of took the Thor idea, I think, over at Image, and he did a book called Ragnarok. Mm-hmm. Had you ever seen that on the shelves?
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah, that's it. It was called Ragnarok.
That's the one. You're right. Okay. Because I was thinking, I don't remember him doing any more Thor, but yeah, he did Ragnarok, which is essentially the Thor story, but just not the Marvel.
It was
Thor
so good.
story.
I bought all the extra, they had special covers and they had some black and white sketch covers. Beautiful stuff.
Yeah, he's a really talented writer and artist. He also did a lot of work on the Fantastic Four as well, amongst other things, but we won't delve too far into that.
Yeah.
Now, very interestingly, Manster, this is the first comic to do something very specific. What was that?
Ooh, I guess you got me. What was it the first one to do?
Oh, it's the first comic to chart on the New York Times.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I forgot to write that in my notes. And it's still up there, right? Like it's pretty high up for all-time list.
It's up there. It lasted in 1979 for several months in the top 10, I think, hovered in that range. And this was before they made a special category for graphic novels.
Right. Yeah.
So I think it was considered the paperback category, but this book was the first comic book to ever penetrate that chart.
That's right. It penetrated
it hard. That's pretty impressive. Impressive. Manster, let's talk a little bit about the book itself. Okay. 64 pages, right? I think it's 64 pages long.
64 pages.
What did you think of beginning to end their ability to adapt a 2-hour movie into 64 pages?
So, there was some stuff. All right, here's my thought. Like, if I were to just give it one sort of succinct thought, it was compressed.
Right.
But it moved along pretty well. And I guess what you could say is some things happened out of order. It just in a different order from how they happened in the movie. But for the most part, you can read this book and watch the movie at the same time, and you're going to get the exact same, script that the people are saying. Most of it is identical.
Yeah.
But some stuff is just shifted. Some stuff's a little bit removed, and it just feels a little compressed.
Goodwin and Simonson received copies of the script to work off of. They were invited to England to see the sets and to be there when Ridley Scott was there, but they were only given so much actual photo material to work off of. I was reading an interview with Simonson where he said that he realized when he saw the book after seeing the movie in total, they saw a cut of the movie over there, but he said it had almost none of the special effects, none of the models, none of the ships, that he drew the Nostromo wrong. Now, if you look at it in the book, it's pretty correct, but there are minor differences.
Yeah.
And he said because he didn't have photo references, he just had his memory and maybe one picture of one side of the ship to go off of. But in that case, I think reading this through, which I've read it a few times in my life, I read it for this, it does the job, man. I mean, like,
Oh, it totally holds up to the movie.
I've read a lot of, especially when I was a kid, I read a lot of the adaptations of comic, or movies into comics, and a lot of them suck. A lot of them, it's either entirely too close or it's entirely kind of too different. This one really nails the script. And you can't blame Archie Goodwin for this because he's just adapting a script and probably picking what to cut out, what to put in, or with an editor's help doing that. But you got to give all the credit in the world, I think, to Walt Simonson. Like, I know you're the artist here, but like this book is fucking beautiful.
It is beautiful. I guess this is, I don't know how early in his career, or at least compared to the art, to the Walt Simonson stuff that I'm familiar with, it's a little more or less polished than his more recent stuff. And it totally fits the book. And what I really love is the characters. You can recognize everybody for who they are in the movies, the actors that portrayed them.
Yeah.
But they don't look, it's not photorealistic. It's nothing like that. Let's harken back to, I think we did an episode on the Star Wars book when that came out. And that was drawn by David Cassidy.
John Cassidy, yeah.
I say David. John Cassidy.
Ba, 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 ba,
Right.
ba, ba, ba.
And like some of the shots looked really good. Like Han Solo looked just like Harrison Ford in one shot. But then like on the next page, it just looked like some goober guy. Like what? It just was back and forth, just trying to be so perfect. This doesn't try to be perfect. This just gives you an idea of the characters, and they're just drawn so well for not photorealistic. It's like just, I don't know how you would describe that art, but like the character faces.
Yeah, like
Look at that.
He had pictures of the actors, and he just gave it their essence without
the essence. They have the essence of the characters.
I think you mentioned it, you definitely just mentioned it, but like, how do you feel about when a comic does translate a real person? I don't necessarily, I mean, I think it's impressive, but I don't necessarily want Mark Hamill to look like Mark Hamill exactly. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and John Cassidy.
Because when he doesn't, then it's going to you're going to notice it.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, there is almost no higher skill for an artist, for me, to be able to say, look at that fucking bust of Harrison Ford. My God, it looks just like Harrison Ford. That's incredible.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like you said, if you then have a panel where you get a little lazy and you don't give it that same oomph, it screams out at you. I would much rather have a book like this where you look at it and go, that's Sigourney Weaver, even though it's not like Sigourney Weaver,
right.
Or that's Yaphet Kotto, even though it's not Yaphet Kotto, that's who it is.
It's great. I love it. The art is perfect for this story.
What did you think? I have this written down as a note because I thought this was pretty impressive. I'm not super technical. I've been reading comics my whole life, but like panel structure. Were you paying attention to the panel structure in this thing?
I did, and I loved it because it wasn't just, 9 panels or 12 panels. You might get a bunch of vertical ones, a couple short, or there's some insets or inserts, and then there's some larger ones. And then sometimes there's like a half a page without any sort of panel at all. It's just sort of the background to the page. You get, I think, one double splash page, which is fantastic when you see the ship, the engineer ship. It's put together really well. Yeah, I like that a lot about it.
And you said earlier about the concept of like compression of storytelling. The compression he uses in his art is amazing. Like there's one panel that really strikes me, and it's a very familiar scene, from the movie. The scene where they cut the face hugger on Kane's face and it bleeds acid. And in the movie, it goes through the deck and then they run down the various decks and are checking how far it's going down. In the comic, it's literally one panel that shows each level.
Yeah, it's vertically stacked.
And it just shows the, several different characters on different levels as they're checking how the acid is dropping down. That's amazing that's how they took this like 2, maybe minute and a half long scene and just boom, put it right there so that you could make this thing 64 pages. You still get the effect of, oh, this thing bleeds acid and it's going to, it could go through our whole ship.
Mm-hmm.
And all it takes is one panel with minimal dialogue to show you that.
Yeah, that's really cool.
All right. I got some more stuff here. What did you think of, this was something else I really liked a lot. Another art trick I thought was really great was every time you had any kind of like transmission of static or the message or whatever, like just like that, those panels of like just letters and like kind of they're wavy.
You're talking about the big background like this here.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, so I guess that would be, like you said, like the transmission. Did we ever hear the transmission in the movie?
In the beginning, they very briefly, you kind of hear it.
So they do it's nothing like the Event Horizon transmission.
Right. No.
Which is fucking scary.
Nobody's screaming out, I'm getting fisted, help.
But it's great because what you see is a bunch of letters in the background. They're pretty large and they're shifted and they're also like cracked and broken. So, and they don't read there's no words. There's just letters, consecutive letters, and you completely get the feeling of what they're going for. It's a broken transmission that you can't really understand. You
read it and you could literally hear it squelching.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You hear like that squelch sound.
It's so good. I don't know who came up with that. I guess Simonson, but
I think this is Simonson's book because obviously Goodwin did a good job of adapting it, but he's adapting from a script and Simonson is essentially drawing this stuff almost from photo reference and his imagination.
Yeah.
So I think that's incredible. I thought another cool thing, this is just one panel, but when Kane gets attacked by the facehugger and he's talking, I think, to Dallas, his word balloon, when he gets attacked, there's a bunch of red squiggly lines that go through the word balloon.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's like blood, but it's like while he's talking.
Because it's not super clear. It's not like I said, it's not photorealistic. You don't even actually see an alien or embryo or whatever you call that, a facehugger come out. You just see like the opening egg. You see some white light and you just see movement lines. And like you said, the red squiggly stuff.
Yeah.
I thought that was a brilliant way to do it rather than actually draw the facehugger coming out.
Here's another one that it's immediate. It's the first page when you open up the story.
Oh, the alien.
The alien. The actual title card, right? Yeah. Like I wrote, my note on that was, it reminds me of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I wonder if he was kind of influenced by, because it has that, like in the Chainsaw Massacre when they go in the house and there's all the furniture made out of bone and stuff.
Yep.
And obviously H.R. Giger, his alien design for the movie was biomechanical and all this stuff. But like that title card, Alien, if you look at it, it's like all ribs and bone.
There's ribs and bone and teeth and just curves and some smooth surfaces. It's perfect.
Yeah. A few years ago, I think also in 2012, and much to your chagrin and anger, I showed you my copy. My good buddy Lou Skywalker, for, I don't know, Christmas or my birthday or something, bought me the artist's edition of this book, which came out. It's also by Titan, came out the same year as the Titan reprint, which I also have. I have both. The artist's edition is not a reader copy. It's something to look through. I did look through it to prepare for this, but it's the size of a fucking Volvo. It's fucking-gantic. We kind of joked that the regular copy is magazine sized. Well, then this one is like fucking dinner table sized. But I don't know if it's still out there. We were discussing it before because you want to get yourself a copy. I think it was very limited, and I don't know if it's sold out or not. But if you ever get a chance to get the artist edition, there's a script in the back of it, annotated script with Walt Simonson's kind of notes on the script. There's an interview with Walt Simonson. Obviously nothing with, as we mentioned before, Archie Goodwin passed away 25 years ago. It's well worth it. It's well worth it. Especially for someone like Lloyd, who's just a fan of art, period.
Yeah.
All right, Manster, let's talk about, because everybody out there, look, it's Alien Day. You've seen Alien. We'll eventually do Alien on the show. I just wanted to do something a little bit different for Alien Day. If you've seen the movie, you know what takes place in the movie. let's talk about some of the little differences that appear in this book as compared to the actual movie Alien. What's something you have right off the bat?
All right, so I'm just going to go through my list from top to bottom. It's pretty much chronological order. This is not a difference, but it's something I never really paid attention to in the movie. But because it's in a book and it's written and you read it, it's so much more prominent. Is the fact that Parker is so fucking concerned with the shares.
See, that's in the movie too.
It is it's in the movie, but you don't notice it really, not like you do in the book.
I'll disagree. I think you notice it, but I will agree. I think the book fucking throws it in more than anything else.
I sat there with the movie in the book side by side and watched it. It's all the same. It says it the exact same amount, but it just seems more prominent in the book.
Yeah.
Because you're reading it, I guess. You know, and you're like, hey, why is this guy complaining so much? And not only that, why do they even know how much everybody else makes and that they make half? And why are they only making half? Everyone's on the same fucking ship. Everybody should be making the same amount. He's an engineer. He's a fucking engineer, for crying out loud.
Yeah. Well, look what that says. If you were on the Nostromo, you wouldn't be making shit either.
Right. So that's one thing I noticed. So the crash down, when they crash down and, you know, the dust and all that stuff, it felt to me more confusing in the book. Like I knew what was going on in the movie. You could really see. But in the book, I'm just like, what's going on here? Like, what's really happening? Who's doing what? That was a little confusing for me.
Yeah. On top of that, I'll also say it seemed like the damage to the ship in the book was worse than it is in the movie.
Right.
Like they mentioned the intakes being filled with dust. And again, I've seen Alien a million times. I cannot remember if they ever say necessarily that. But like even when they're taking off, they make a comment about how the intakes are barely staying together. But we'll worry about it when we get back to the oil refinery.
Here's something that I picked up on. I'm going to show you a picture. This text right here. All the digital computerized text, like the mother text, I can't fucking read it. I don't know if it's my eyes. It's so difficult to read.
It's red font on a yellow background.
Yeah.
And yes, I struggled as well.
And that does change from time to time, but that font is so difficult. But it's still, you can always tell, you know, it's mother, which was cool. So here's one of the differences that I noticed. The facehugger scene in the book is really good. It's drawn so well, you know, where Kate is laying there and the facehugger's on him. But once they get once the facehugger comes off and then they find it, remember in the movie, they probe it and they're like picking at the innards.
Yeah.
There's no scene at all like that in the book.
Yeah. Also, like to jump into one, I don't know if you wrote this down, but like the same thing at the end of the story, Ripley doesn't look for the cat at all. No, like in the movie, she spends like 5 minutes looking for Jones, and that's what kind of makes her have to try to shut down the engines from blowing up. In this, she just goes to the shuttle, and I think the cat's already there.
Yeah, I think the last part of the cat was when Brett saw him, right?
Right, when Brett
wasn't that the last time they really paid attention to the cat? Yeah.
In the book, yeah.
Yep. Also regarding the cat, and I don't know, maybe I just read it wrong. It looked like there was a little cat-sized little stasis machine in the shuttle.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I just was looking at it funny. All right, so here's this is just an art thing, but it nothing to do with the book at all. But there's a scene halfway through. Every single part of this book is drawn. Every single part. Except for this page. This one page has this like blue tissue like smothered over a wet surface.
Oh, yeah.
It's the only piece of the whole book that's like that. And it stood out to me. I'm like, I don't understand why it was not a drawn thing. It's clearly an image. Like a Photoshop image, or they didn't have Photoshop back then, but you know what I mean.
Photostat.
Photostat. So yeah, that was kind of weird. The stomach bursting scene.
Oh yeah.
Oh, they didn't spend enough time on that. I wish I had gotten more. It was just like one panel, he looks like a zombie. He literally looks like a zombie. And then like 4 panels later, fucking the things burst out of his stomach.
I wrote in my notes that the chest burster in the comic somehow is less cute than the movie, and it's not cute in the movie.
Right.
In the movie, though, like it pops through once, breaks his sternum, pops again, and then pops out, and then does that whole little and then it runs across the table.
It is things like "Hello, my baby."
Yeah, hello, madame. In this comic, it comes out of him like
full sized.
It looks like a fireball. But it's covered in blood. It shoots out of him over his head and just gets, and it definitely looks bigger as well. Not full size, but it definitely looks bigger. It didn't seem as almost like as in the movie, it's like this kind of like holy shit shock moment. And in the book, it's just like ba-boom.
So what about Brett's death? So Brett is Parker's assistant.
Brett's death is
a little different.
Super different. And here's a little alien factoid that I've known for a long time, but a lot of people don't know. So Brett's death in the original cut, and Walt Simonson talks about this in the interview, his death was much longer in the work print of Alien. In the version we see, the alien descends from like those chains in that weird like engineering room, comes down, he turns around, he looks up, it grabs him by the head in the movie, and then hits him with the tongue, and then like kind of like ascends back up into the ceiling. So later in the movie, when Lambert dies, all you see of Lambert's death is it slipping its tail between her legs and up behind her and her back. Here's the alien factoid. Those are not Veronica Cartwright's legs in that scene. Those are Harry Dean Stanton's legs in that scene, because in the original version of Alien, in the original cut, the alien puts its tail between Brett's legs and stings him and then kills him. So we see that here. Yeah,
that's exactly what we get.
Right. Here. So the next time you watch Alien and you see that scene, those are not Lambert's legs. Those are they cut it and moved it to her death. But that's what you get here.
I was definitely wondering about that, because I watched or reading that and I'm like, this is Lambert's death.
Yes. Yep.
So excellent. Good explanation there. When Ripley discovers, when she interrogates Mother and wants to find out what the hell's going on, and figures out what that was it 937?
Yeah,
Directive 937 or something.
Mill/Psi from the Mill/Psi division. Yeah.
And if I could actually read what's in this book, I could read it for you, but I didn't write it down and I can't read it. But
it's like invisible ink for you.
But it does say all this stuff, but it leaves out what I thought was a really good line in the movie, the very last line of all that.
All crew expendable.
Yeah, crew expendable, right.
Yep, you're right.
It doesn't say that in the book. It does say something like other priorities rescinded, something like that. But the words crew expendable, that means something.
Oh, that's huge. Yeah, and I agreed, because, I've seen Alien a million times, but when I read this the other night, I said to myself, isn't it supposed to say crew expendable? Because that's what like really sets her off. And that's the scene where she sits back and somehow Ash is standing right next to her, which I've always loved that he's able to do that kind of stuff. But yeah, no, you're right. It's not in there.
All right. And I want to ask you about the next scene. So, in the movie, Ash, she goes to leave, right? And Ash is there and he's looking very, very suspicious, and he's got a drop of milk blood.
He's sweating
milk sweat running down his temple. In the movie, he throws her around quite a bit.
He rips her hair out.
Yeah, he grabs her hair first thing, and then he throws her around like 2 or 3 times at least. In the book, he doesn't throw her around; he punches her.
Yeah, he beats the shit out of her.
And then the same thing with the magazine choking. I don't. What do you like better out of those two? Would you rather see him throw her around or punch her?
Well, it's punching her is more brutal. I'll always be confused at his method of choking her with that porn magazine.
So weird.
Because it's not like he doesn't jam it in her mouth.
Right.
He just I guess the part of it you're supposed to think is his android strength.
Yeah.
Because because remember, there's that part where in the movie where he grabs Parker by like the fucking nipple, and Parker's
That's right.
like, yeah. So like, I think he's just like pushing that magazine so hard onto her mouth that he's gonna like fucking break her or something. But yeah, I think I'm kind of glad we didn't see him beating her like that in the movie.
Me too.
Because not that you're ever going to be sympathetic with Ash, but like you also don't want to see her get like it's already been a rough couple days. You don't need that.
Yep. Only a couple more now. Once again, the same scene. Once Parker comes in, I don't know what he grabs in the book to hit him, but it looks like it's something different from in the movie. In the movie, he knocks his head off pretty good, and his head is like off to the side. And then Ash starts sort of going into this sort of android death glitch.
Yeah.
Right. And that's not in the book at all, which is okay. I mean, I kind of liked it. It'd be hard that's more of a visual and audio sort of thing.
Yeah, 64 pages, man. You can't have like 5 panels of Ash doing that fucking
you got to sacrifice. Yeah, you got
that high pitched noise and rumbling around. Yeah,
yeah. But that was a fantastic movie scene that I loved. And then the self-destruct countdown. So this is where things sort of happen in different orders, because after they kill Ash, Ripley starts the self-destruct countdown, but they barely give it just like one tiny little frame in the middle of a page. And it was a pretty big deal in the movie.
Yeah, well, I think part of it is they also got rid of trying to find the cat, like we said.
Yeah.
So it kind of takes like the rush of getting out away a little bit in the comic. And much like in the movie, but even more so, once they kill Ash and Ripley does that, Parker and Lambert die quickly.
Yeah.
Like, they die quickly in the movie too, but it feels like maybe there's still 10 minutes left. In this, it's like they kill Ash, she moves on, and then the next page, they're dead.
Yeah, it totally happens in a different order in here, and they die sooner.
Yeah.
And that's really, they're not problems I have with the book. It's just things that I was trying to pick out to see what was different.
All right. Well, I got some.
The book works really well.
Yeah, I got some too. You touched on some of them. First off, the alien itself is much more brown than black color-wise.
Oh yeah, you're right.
It's black as night in the movie. In the book, it's definitely brown.
It's like a burnt umber.
Yeah. And the other thing is, it looks fucking huge in certain panels. Like the scene where Dallas runs into it in the vents, it looks like fucking Godzilla. It looks like a kaiju when it's got him cornered. And that's, and then also the scene where it kills Brett. It's so fucking big that you're wondering, is this supposed to be bigger than it was? It's 7 feet tall. Is this bigger than it was in the actual film? You mentioned the Brett death and as we talked about the tail and the stinger and how that works into Lambert's death. One thing I noticed certainly was in a few points in the book, and I didn't write them down necessarily in terms of like what panels, but when you're reading Ash's dialogue, there's a few points where they give him like exclamation points, or like you could tell he's saying things with like emotion, which in the movie he never does. He's an android. No. He's passing as human, but he's very calm no matter what. He's very collected. And there's one point early on where I think he yells at Parker about the shares, and it's more of like the way you read it is like he's yelling at him, and that stuff doesn't happen in the movie at all.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, okay. I noticed that same scene.
There's a scene at the very end, which I think I had read at one point was filmed, but never added into any prints, because there's a director's cut of Alien that has several things that are not in the regular cut, and I'll talk about one of those in a minute. But one of them is there's a scene where at the end, where in the movie, Ripley's trying to find the cat, and she finds the cat, and then she's trying to get back to the shuttle, which, by the way, in the movie, they never say the name of. In the comic, it's called the Narcissus. In the movie, she is going down a hallway, and the alien is like looking at Jones in the cat carrier. In this, because the cat's not a part of it, she goes down a hallway, and the alien has become a transformer. It's folded itself into a box-like shape, and I think the idea is that if you saw it, you wouldn't know what it was. But like as soon as she sees it, it starts to unfold itself and she goes the other way. I thought that was interesting, but also weird.
Yeah.
There's also a scene it's not in any cut of the movie, but it's a cut scene from Alien before it kills Lambert. And this is a really cool, creepy scene where the alien, when it walks into the room to kill Lambert, it's walking like an upside down crab. And what I mean by that is it's got its knees bent and its arms behind it and under it, and it's walking towards her like that. And I've seen that cut scene before. It's not in the director's cut. It's very creepy. So it kind of lends a little credence to the fact that maybe it does things like this. Okay. Here's a couple that I know. One was in the script of the movie and one is in the director's cut, and they're both in this. They're not in the regular version. When Lambert comes in after Ripley doesn't let Kane, Lambert, and Dallas in because of the quarantine issue, and Ash lets them in, Lambert punches Ripley. That's in the director's cut of the movie. She comes in, she punches her, and Parker and Brett pull them apart. There's also another scene that's not in any version of the movie, but it's in the script, where when Ripley's becoming on to Ash, like understanding that something's wrong with him, she asks Lambert if she's ever slept with him before.
Oh, I totally wrote that down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you? That wasn't in the movie, right?
It's in the script, and I think in the novelization by Alan Dean Foster. And then Lambert says, "No, I haven't. Have you?" So and that's Ripley putting two and two together that something's up with Ash.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I thought that was a pretty peculiar scene between those two.
Yeah.
Because it was only one panel and it didn't go anywhere. But yeah, it's Liam lending credence to that.
Something's wrong with him. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's definitely a scene in the regular version of the movie where and it's in this too, where Ripley asked Dallas if he had ever flown with Ash before.
Yep.
And he says, no, he was a last minute addition.
Yeah. Just like you.
Yeah. Just like you. Yeah. Which is not in the movie, I believe. I think that's only in the comic. And then the one other thing I wrote here is, so Lambert's death, you don't see anything. You just see her being cornered and that's it. Parker's death in the movie, is pretty graphic. I mean, the thing, hits him with the tongue, but it's super quick. You've got to slow-mo it to see anything. In this book, it's like 3 panels side by side of the alien just grabbing his head, tongue coming out, and then his head just exploding.
Just explode, yeah.
And then the next panel, which is also in the movie that I always thought was a great little moment of what happened, is when Ripley comes in and Parker's dead body's on the ground and you just see Lambert's feet hanging. Mm-hmm. That's also in the movie, but you see it here and it's just kind of oh, that's creepy as fuck.
Yeah.
What just happened here? So now that we've talked about this, we've gone over some of the differences. Let's rate this thing.
Yeah.
And a guy who spent 6 weeks in the bathroom got a 91.
I want to say one more thing, man. That double splash page when they see the engineer ship. Wow, that's fucking awesome.
Oh, it's
the
incredible.
Scale of it, because you see the 3 of them standing out there, and they're just like a grain of rice.
Yep.
The scale is amazing in this.
It is. It's awesome. Let's just talk about it. So here, the rules of the pint: 0 to 5, 0 being the worst thing ever, 5 being the best, quarter and half scale optional. Now, obviously, this isn't a story arc of something. This is an adaptation. So we have to take that into account, but also how good of an adaptation it is. How much did you enjoy reading it? What you thought of the art? I'll go first. I'll let you think about it for a second.
Yep.
But as a comic reading experience, I'm going to give this thing. I love Alien. I love Alien. It's one of my favorite things ever. Again, happy 4/26 Alien Day. We'll do this every year. I got to be honest. I don't know if I can give it a 5, but I'm going to go 4.75. Because I think they did so much right in this. The art is incredible. The pacing is just right. I'm not disappointed reading this. It's not like I go, okay, I know what Alien is. I know all about the movie, and I don't read this and go, man, they should have done this here, done that there. They took a property that was written and a script, and they were able to condense it without much lost into a 64-page story. And then the art is just fucking berserk bonkers by Walt Simonson. So I'm going to go 4.75. Manster, what do you give Alien the illustrated story from 1979.
Nice. Yeah, it's great. I loved it. It's in and out. I like that, 64 pages.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. It's just long enough, You don't have to spend like 2 hours reading it. But it's not just a half hour, it's somewhere in between. The art is great, the writing is great. I'm like you, I can't give it a 5. Just because. I mean, I've given a couple things a 5, but I really reserve 5 for comics for something else. But a 4.5 out of 5 cats, I guess.
Joneses.
Joneses, yeah.
All right. That's fair.
That's pretty good, pretty fucking good book.
So like I had thrown this at you and you had to buy this book. Is this something you're okay with having in your collection?
Oh, absolutely. I had some Alien stuff, early Alien comics from Dark Horse, but that's all I have. And well, the latest run that I think you're still getting it, right? The Marvel Alien.
Yeah, I'm way behind on it, but yeah.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And I think if I can find it, I will definitely find that, get that artist edition.
That's my mission. I'm going to find it for you. I'm going to find one for you. Every episode of the Pint, a pop culture podcast is a co-production between myself and the Manster. Over to my left there in the virtual world, and our Pint insiders. Those are the folks that go to Patreon/The Pint, pay $2.50 a month, and get all kinds of cool extra episodes and magnets of the Manster dressed up like Don Johnson, all kinds of cool stuff. This week, though, I am going to give a shout out to our good buddy Mike Kelleher. That's right.
Oh, Mike Kelleher.
Yeah,
nice.
Kellustration. Now, I'll be totally honest. He'll probably never hear this because when I saw Mike at BingCon last year, he said, I'm still listening to the show. I still love the show. I support you on Patreon, but I'm so busy and backed up. I haven't heard any of your Patreon stuff. So hopefully in the next, year or two, he'll hear this and go, hey, thank you guys.
Yeah.
But Mike has been a great friend of ours since the Pint of Comics days. He is an incredibly talented artist and art restorer who does these incredible editions for Marvel and DC. And if you've bought an omnibus or a Marvel's Masterworks collection, there's an extremely good chance that Mike and his company, Kellustration, have done the total restoration of that project. So go check them out. I'm pretty sure it's kellustration.com.
Yeah.
Go check that out. Incredible guy. One of the friendliest guys on earth. A couple years ago, when he barely even knew us, he invited me, Sir John, my wife, the Manster, his wife at the time. We all went up to a Christmas party and had a great time. So just want to say thank you, Mike, for your support. We love you. We're thinking about you. Can't wait to see you, hopefully at BingCon or maybe Terrificon this year, whatever.
Thanks, Mike. If you hear this in the year 2030, so be it. Yeah, well, you can find us on all your podcatchers on Facebook and YouTube. It's The Pint, a pop culture podcast. On Instagram and Twitter, it's at The Pint Podcast. And the Patreon, www.patreon.com/The Pint, and become an insider, just like Mike. See ya.
All crew expendable.
It's over, Johnny. It's over! Nothing is over! Nothing! You just don't turn it off!